Hello and welcome. I am very excited to share with you today about what is SEO. In this webinar, we're going to review some basic concepts. And SEO has been around for a very long time, and it is an important key to your business success. When you are searching for a particular business online, you may think it magically replies with a long list of links and websites and pages, but it's much, much more complex than that. So today we're going to start talking about a little bit more information about what is SEO and how we get started in that process. So hopefully you can follow along. I am going to talk a little bit more on the nerd side of things. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll explain a little bit more information as we go. So before we get started, let me introduce myself. I am Carla with Designed by Carla. I have been in the online industry now for over 17 years, and we specialize in the SEO, search engine optimization, and niche marketing for small to medium-sized businesses. We work to increase webinars, training sessions, and also we work on adding some value to our clients' information online. So if you've got any other questions about that, please feel free to ask me those questions. So the next part is what is SEO and how it starts with a little bit of a history and getting started. So before I actually discuss those concepts of SEO, you may want to know a little history and how it all started. SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, is the practice of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through organic search engine results. You will hear that word organic versus paid and truly understand the difference with these in the search results. So there is a difference between organic and paid. And what we're going to talk about is more on the organic search results in the search engine. So a little history of SEO that can be traced back all the way back to 1990. This is the time when the world first started websites launching and the internet was fresh and new. So around 96, SEO really started to take shape when Sergey Brin and Larry Page began building what would become the biggest, most recognizable search engine to date, and that was called Backrub. And so they called it this because the program analyzed backlinks to understand how important a website was and what other websites, how it relates to that. And so Backrub was operated on a Stanford server until it eventually took up too much bandwidth. So what happened was it evolved into the name Google. Actually came from a graduate student at Stanford his name was Sean Anderson. And the name originally was spelled Googol. And so when Anderson actually did check to see if that domain was taken, he actually searched for the spelling as Goole.com, as you know today. And this became the actual name of the company for Google. So in those early days of SEO, anything went. And there was no real rules that define SEO. And it was basically anything that we did and with no real structure. So as marketers, we used a lot of tricks called spamming. We did keyword stuffing. We broke a lot of those rules online. And because back then we were not penalized for breaking those rules, anything we did to push a site to in the search engine was actually good. And those search engines was a gold mine for us at that time. And we knew how to manipulate content to benefit that business. So really, honestly, back then, it was just whatever we wanted to do. We actually worked on SEO in that function and producing search engine results for a client. So how did Google change the game? Really changed and redefined how we did search. With more and more companies discovering the online marketing, Google changed that game. And back then, Yahoo, who dominated the search market for that shorter period of time, had the opportunity to actually buy Google for $1 million. Yahoo failed to gauge its biggest competitor and turned down that deal. And now Google is now worth over $309 billion. As Google dominates that market, it maintains almost 90% of the market share as of January 2020. That means it undeniably is the most popular search engine at this point, followed by Bing at 6%. So you can see that Google really set the standards for us marketing, search engine optimization, and we had to follow a lot of rules during that time. So Google changed that game for marketing and reworking its algorithm for updates of quality and relevant content to connect users with what you really wanted to find. And so SEO evolved rapidly, forcing us to change our online strategies. And we were definitely struggling back then to try to figure them out. So how does SEO work? So this is where we start thinking about how we change that game and follow the rules of Google. And as marketing companies, we had to change that so that we could understand and relate to the search engine and how it all worked. So search engines basically follow links. Links connect pages and documents, much like a road connects to villages and cities. So by following these links, search engines collect the data to show to their users. But how do they do that? And there's three things that are listed here. One is called spiders, also called bots and crawlers. It's index and algorithm. So it's segmented into what the search engine is known for today. Now I'm going to speak a little nerd on this part, so hopefully you can kind of follow along. So Google has a crawler that goes out and gathers information about all the content that can find on the internet. The crawlers bring back ones and zeros back to the search engine to build what they call an index. That index is fed through an algorithm that tries to match all the data with your query. Ta-da! So what that means is that what you put in the search engine is matched to what is put in the index and what is put on your website. So it all somewhat matches to that query, that search query. And you're going to hear that word a lot of times. There are a lot of factors that go into the search engine algorithm. SE, search engine, okay? These are a list of those factors. There's way too many to list in this presentation today, and the weight of what those really are, and how that all relates to the search engine algorithm, because there are a lot of factors with that weight. So that's what SE stands for in search engine. The O in search SEO optimization is where people who write all the content and put it on their websites get the spider to search your site. So basically, are you still following me? So SE is the search engine, O is the optimization, and the O is pertaining to you on what you put on your website. So with that knowledge, the spider, going back to that, follows the links to the web. A spider is also called a crawler, a robot, or a bot. It goes around the internet 24/7, collecting content such as text, images, videos, any new items, anything that could be interested for the search engine to display. This includes how we've now developed into the AI aspect of development. So once it comes to the website, it saves a version of the page called the index. This index is updated every time the spider comes around your website and finds anything new or revised on that page. This is why it's so important to be able to update and maintain your website on a regular basis. Depending how important Google deems your site, the spider comes around more or less often to your website. So they make that determination on how relevant the content that you put on the website and how often the spider or bot crawls through your site. After the indexing your website, search engines can show your website in search results. The algorithm takes the data from the index and then calculates which site the user would most likely want to view based on their query. So basically, it you're the cool kid and you hang out with cool kids, the more often you update your website, the more often it's searched, the better it calculates that information based on those search queries to find you. So hopefully you're still continuing to follow me, but it's basically saying that this is still all a very much of a mystery, even as to us marketing developers. It's basically saying we have to really understand how the algorithm works. So nobody knows exactly which factors are decided by Google to determine the search results. So that's always been a mystery. We just have to continue to keep pushing through on understanding the search queries. And you thought I really had all the answers. Really, honestly, we just continue evolving our basic SEO factors along with this. So what we're going to talk about today is really the structure of developing. There's two pieces of SEO factors that you can follow. This is a little bit more on the aspect of understanding the division of how it all works together and all apart. So, but what we do know is that the concepts of on-page and off-page factors, sometimes called on-site or off-site as well, these are the main SEO factors and the two components of the search engine optimization SEO process. So for you, you may think, okay, what does it mean about on-page and off-page? I'm going to go over that a little bit in this presentation. So the first thing that we're going to discuss is on-page factors. This is everything that's going on with your website. The number one rule on on-page factors is the way your page is optimized can have a huge impact on its ability to rank. Following me now? So when we first started designing websites, most companies would develop in the beginning 3 to 5 pages at most. Believe it or not, we call those brochure sites. So when Google changed that game and changed how things were being indexed, we started programming much larger websites, more customizable database, which we call that the king of content, developing content for websites. The more content you develop, the better your search ranking was, and being found in the search engines was based on those factors. So on-page, on-site SEO is the process of making your website what we call search engine friendly. And I'm sure you've heard that word or that phrase, and if not, you might want to write that down in bold letters. Search engine friendly. There are rules and guidelines on this structure. Whether you have an existing website or you're starting a website, this is the basic concept. You will continue, and I say continue, right, to change and update basic concepts based on the rules of Google. In this slide are a list of those keywords, a list of those words you can see that are important to your website. I'm not going to go through all of these details today, but I'll give you an idea of what you consider when you're developing or improving your website. So things to consider, and these are important, which would be page speed, images, content marketing, keyword research, meta tags, site structure, mobile friendly, internal links, alt tags, user friendly, and relatable content. Now we'll go back to the mobile friendly. Is back when we started doing websites development, we had one website, and that was basically on a desktop. As we got more and more into the mobile aspect, now we have two websites to consider. We have the desktop version and we have the mobile version. The mobile version ranks differently than your desktop version and vice versa. So this is where it's very important to understand that you have not just one website, but two websites that you have to think about. So on-site SEO is the process of making your website search engine friendly. Again, that is something very important when you're looking at on-page factors. And there's rules and engagement on this aspect that you should consider to creating this checklist of information that you want to put on your website. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is off-page factors. Off-page factors are everything outside of your website. And sometimes we refer to this as off-site factors as well. Off-site SEO, okay, this is referring to those actions that are taking outside the website that impact your ratings within search engine result pages. We call those SERPs. And what happens outside of your website also affects your ranking on your website and how things are referred to in the search engine results. So it's good to know that you're doing a lot of stuff off-site factors, but you really need to know that it makes a difference on your on-site factors as well. Off-site SEO simply tells Google what other people think about your website, almost like word of mouth referral, but online. And off-page SEO refers to all of the activities that you and others do away from your website to raise the ranking of a page within search engine results. So everything that you're connecting to outside of your website really needs to be a consideration of like how it's going to react to you back to your website. So if you're out buying a bunch of backlinks out, or buying or putting a guest blog out, you need to really understand if these are good and trustworthy sites. So optimizing for these off-site ranking factors involve improving search engine and user perception of site popularity, relevancy, and trustworthiness and authority. And so Google holds that as a huge factor. So everything you do outside of your website that you put a link out to, or someone's linking to you to your website, they really hold that weight for you to understand that this is important. So when you have that, you really have to monitor what's going on outside your website, not just what's going on page. This is why it's important for you to know what's going on, because it's a reference to your company. So it's all about quality links leading back to your website. So if you're out buying a bunch of spamming links, or you did one time, then you need to know what those links and how they're linked back to your website, to follow that, to make sure that they're good quality links. Sometimes we go out and as a broker, we'll go out and buy a domain from a broker and don't realize that the actual domain name itself that's been sitting there for several months or even a year, and you buy that off that broker, could also have spamming links attached to that domain. So you always want to make sure that the domain that you purchased, whether it's from Google, GoDaddy, or whatever, you want to make sure that the domain is a clean link as well. So domains actually hold a huge importance to knowing that you're buying a good, clean domain link. And you can do that by doing some research on that. So to do these off-page factors, this includes your social media that you're doing as well. Your social media referring back to your website needs to be as clean as possible too. So it is important to run audit reports throughout the years so that you can monitor on who and what is referring to your company website. This includes social media. This includes link building sites like third-party directories, guest blogging, influencing marketing, any of those aspects that refers to outside of those components back to your website. All this holds weight to your search engine results. This is probably one of the most important aspects, because if you've got sites that are damaging or not trustworthy, that actually affects your page ranking down the line on your website, because everything that you're linking to, plus anything that you're linking off your website to a third-party site, needs to be a clean link as well. So you need to make sure that everything that you're doing on-site or off-site really mirrors what exactly, so it's good quality information that Google's looking at you and saying you're a trustworthy site. So let's make your site a more trustworthy building process to be searched more often. So this is really important, valuable information to know that off-site holds just as much weight as on-site information. So today I'm not going to go through all of this in detail because we only have about 30 minutes here, and I'm probably running it about 10 minutes a little fast. But I wanted to offer you, we are going to do what we call a SEO workshop down the line. So get ready for you understanding the rules of SEO and how you can relate to your business to be found online. It's not a simple process, but you can make some changes and what's important to your users and knowing how to be found in the search engine results. So when we're talking about this workshop, we're going to go over that, and I'm very excited to really teach you some of this basic knowledge, that maybe these concepts, whether you're in control of your own changes, whether you want to create new ideas to bring to your marketing team, SEO is the king of search. And this is really where the basic concepts start. Because what happened is when we first started doing web development back then, we started out with a website. There was no social media at that time. And then when social media launched, it really took the visual back, the target and visual back over to social media, where website is really the end result on how people buy from your product. You go on the Google, you type in a term, you find something that you're looking for, and you buy based on those search results. So if you're not putting time and effort back into your website, then how do you think those referrals, refer back to you? End result is that your website has to be as clean as possible. So when this workshop that we're going to be doing, we're going to review those concepts. You're going to get a presentation on the rules to follow. You'll have the checklist, you'll have the guide to improve your website. The whole idea is to get you actively back on your website and focus on the content that makes you work to improve your search results. So, but we do offer, if you're not wanting to do a workshop and you don't really want to learn it on your own because it may be just too confusing, we do strategy sessions and consultations to help you improve your online marketing on your website. So that information is available to you. You can reach out to me if you have those questions, and we can do that. And we can actually do an audit on your website to show you some improvements. But I wanted to say thank you so much for attending our webinar on what is SEO. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me personally and we'll work you through the process. Again, I am Carla Stiles with Design by Carla, and this is today's workshop. Thank you again.